ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
All eyes on a handful of states that will determine this election: North Carolina, Nevada, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. This as thousands of protesters around the country take to the streets demanding a fair election. We have team coverage tonight. We begin with our ABC 10 News reporter Anthony Pura in the Live Center breaking down the narrow race for the White House. Anthony.
Well, from an electoral vote perspective, not much has changed since last night. You can see here on the map still 5 undecided states. And if you go into some of them, you can see within each state that a lot has changed throughout the day, starting off here in Arizona. Biden still has the lead here with 47,000 votes, but Donald Trump is shrinking that lead. He is making grounds here in Arizona. Over here in Georgia, a different story, the opposite story, in fact, because Trump still has the lead, but it has narrowed to less than 2,000 votes, and there's still 16,000 votes left to count. Over here in Pennsylvania, the state with the most electoral votes left on the board with 20. Biden closing in on the president's lead there tonight, a difference of about 22,500 votes. On Thursday, President Trump made his first public address since election night.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
The president continued to push unsupported claims of widespread voter fraud without providing any evidence. Former Vice President Joe Biden also addressed the country Thursday.
We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working.
Ballot counting continued in swing states still too close to call, like in Georgia, where the president's lead is razor thin after shrinking throughout the day as more and more votes were processed. In Nevada, Biden is leading, and a large majority of the votes that still need to be counted there are from Democrat-leaning Clark County, which includes Las Vegas. In Arizona, Biden leads, but Trump has inched closer. Supporters chanting, "Count the vote." It's the opposite of what his supporters demanded in Pennsylvania. The president leads in Pennsylvania, but there are hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots left to count. And with the race tightening, emotions are high, and there are protests happening in some places tonight. We're going to go into some of that later in the show in a few minutes. Reporting live tonight, Anthony Pura, ABC 10 News.
Anthony, thank you. President Trump is waging multiple legal battles in the middle of this election count. With his possible paths to victory now narrowing, the president's team saw mixed results from lawsuits in several battleground states, some with results still outstanding. ABC's Marcia Gonzalez looks at whether any of these challenges could end up before the Supreme Court.
President Trump now vowing to legally challenge, quote, all of the recent Biden-claimed states, making baseless accusations of fraud. The president's legal team already filing several lawsuits and saying they plan to file one in Nevada to stop counting of what they call illegal votes. But officials say they've seen no evidence of any improper ballots being processed. In Michigan, a judge saying today that she plans to deny an attempt by the Trump campaign to stop ballot counting there. They claim they haven't been given meaningful access to some counting locations. The judge saying there are issues with the evidence presented by the campaign and adding the counting there is already largely done. At least twice today, the president tweeting, "Stop the count."
I think that suit and the others, it's looking increasingly unlikely that this election is going to be determined by the courts or by the Supreme Court. And I have to say, for the sake of our democracy, that's a good thing.
And the president tweeting, big legal win in Pennsylvania after a judge this morning granted their request to observe poll workers in Philadelphia up close as they process the remaining mail-in ballots. Access the Trump campaign said this afternoon they still hadn't been given.
This makes it look like a kangaroo court. We deserve better, and we're not leaving till we witness every single vote that transpires in here.
Also in Pennsylvania, the president's legal team has filed with the Supreme Court seeking to join a pending lawsuit over mail-in ballots postmarked by Election Day that arrive by Friday. Several justices have indicated they would consider taking the case. Pennsylvania's Secretary of State says if the Supreme Court does intervene, it likely wouldn't impact a significant number of ballots.
What we care about here is making sure that every qualified voter, that their vote counts, that their voices get heard.
The Trump team has also filed several other lawsuits. Joe Biden's campaign calls them all meritless. And Biden tweeted, every vote must be counted. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, Wilmington, Delaware.
And we are joined now by USD law professor Craig Barkas to break down the presidential race and the legal challenges that we're seeing in multiple states tonight. Thank you, Professor Barkas, for your time. Let's start. How tough will it be for President Trump to win these legal challenges, and how long might that take?
Great question. There's a long way between an allegation and a remedy. And in between, you have to have a meritorious claim and you have to have evidence. And what we're hearing from a lot of legal experts around the country is that that bridge is not being crossed, where there doesn't seem to be a claim that, for one, might actually result in an election result being overturned. And then secondarily, to the extent there are allegations of fraud, people are asking, where is the evidence? And that seems to be missing at this juncture.
So with what you're just saying, what do you think the odds are that the presidential race is decided by the courts or perhaps the Supreme Court?
Yeah, that's also a good question. Elections are handled at the state level. So generally, the federal courts do try to stay out of it. Obviously, Bush versus Gore in 2000 was an exception. But for the most part, the federal courts are quite deferential because every state is allowed to set up its own election laws. So at this juncture, you also don't have really a coherent legal approach because, as your newscast has indicated, in some parts of the country, the allegation is stop the count. In other parts of the country, it's keep counting. And so to the extent that you've got that sort of contradiction, it doesn't sound, it undercuts the credibility of the entire approach. And then secondarily, again, states would tend to resolve these, and it's not likely to find its way into the federal system or up to the Supreme Court.
So give me a scenario here. If in the next 24 to 48 hours, Joe Biden is projected to hit 270, but we have lawsuits underway in these several states where the lawsuits are going in, and then let's say Joe Biden declares victory, what does that really mean?
It won't mean anything until the states themselves have certified the election. Once that occurs, the legal recourse is going to be rather limited. But right now, you've got a lot of uncertainty, you've got a lot of ambiguity, you have a lot of disagreement. And whenever those conditions exist, you're going to have people, to some extent, coming at this rhetorically in very, very, very different ways. Now, whether they can actually find any satisfaction in the court is another matter entirely, but that doesn't really keep people from suggesting that that's what they're going to do. And having been a former trial lawyer, I do know how people often suggested, well, we'll see you in court. Now, whether that happens and whether a remedy is provided, that, again, that's a whole different situation.
All right, a lot to unpack tonight. Professor Craig Barkas, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
At home, the county registrar released the results of about 72,000 more votes today. Let's take a look at some of the biggest races, starting with the mayor here in San Diego. Todd Gloria added to his lead to become San Diego's next mayor. He picked up 4,000 votes and leads Barbara Bree by more than 12%. The only competitive congressional race right now is in the 50th. Darrell Issa widened his lead over Amar Campa by about 4,000 votes. Now that puts Issa more than 16,000 votes ahead. To two big county supervisor races now. In District 3, Tara Lawson-Remer continues to lead big, up by more than 18 points, trying to unseat Kristen Gaspar. And the District 2 race is neck and neck right now. Steve Voss leads Joel Anderson by fewer than 1,000 votes, less than 0.4%. Across the county, there are still more than 3,000 ballots left to count.
And we wouldn't expect weather to be uneventful tonight as well, especially right now. Meteorologist Angelica Campos is joining us, even in San Diego. A lot coming this weekend, Angelica.
That's right. It'll continue to be very interesting each day as we track our first significant rain of the season. At this time tomorrow, we should have already had a couple of showers across the county. It will begin in the evening time. It's going to start out lightly, but it could make the roads very slick. Keep in mind, we haven't had any rainfall in about 5-6 months, and a wind advisory will get in effect, or will go into effect rather, at noon tomorrow through Sunday night. Damaging winds are possible. I'll show you what to expect around the county and how windy it's going to be even for coastal communities.
Angelica, thank you. Turning now to coronavirus, and here are the latest numbers. The county announced 530 new cases today. That brings our total to 58,600. No new deaths were reported, so that number stays at 904.
Here we are, 2 high schools caught in the crosshairs. I mean, that's a huge amount of people. That's just insane.
2 large Halloween parties over the weekend have halted the return to in-person learning for 2 Vista high schools. The district announced it will wait until later this month, once the 14-day quarantine period of time has passed. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo spoke to parents and teachers shocked by reports of these parties.
The district is asking parents to get their child tested if they attended any of these 2 parties or if they are showing any COVID-19 symptoms. Vista High School and Mission Vista High School students will now have to wait until November 16th before resuming in-person learning.
I think at this point we're all just super tired of people not doing the right thing.
District officials sent parents this letter saying 2 Halloween parties over the weekend are to blame. The letter says the district received reports that teens were not practicing social distancing and not wearing masks.
We can't continue just completely disregarding the rules.
Scotty Taylor is the mom of 2 students at Mission Vista. She says the party is an annual tradition. Her daughter was not there this weekend.
I have actually picked my daughter up from there previously. They have this party every single year, and it is massive.
Vista Unified returned to in-person learning in late October. Vista and Mission Vista high schools had already gone back to virtual learning because of COVID cases. According to their website, since October 20th, 20 people in the district have tested positive for COVID-19, both staff and students.
We've been saying that if we don't do it right the first time, we're going to have to do it again.
Carrie Avila is the president of the Vista Teachers Association. She says the district needs a better plan. The district has said students' desks will not be 6 feet apart and classes can have as many as 38 students.
If we are allowing the schools to open up with full class sizes and not social distance, it undermines everything that we're trying to do to go back to an orange.
Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.